I'm Brett Gunderson here with Orange County Elite, and we have Mike Glass with us here. And Mike, you've been in bodybuilding for how many years now?
I can't remember. 3 lifetimes, I think.
What got you interested in bodybuilding in the beginning?
Well, Brett, I used to compete in bodybuilding myself. I was a real skinny kid, and I wanted to do something to give me more confidence and more, you might say, more strength and more ability to do things. So I worked out most of my life as a kid. I started when I was 13, and I'm 70 right now. So, I worked out, and I worked out mainly at home because I didn't go to a gym. And I started to work out with a place called Vic Tanny's years ago, owned by Vic Tanny himself. And I used to clean up the gym and be able to go to the gym and work out, and in exchange I would do my little work. And then later on I got a little bit more serious. I ended up competing in a show, my very first show, and it was Mr. California, and I didn't have a clue what to do. I had a tan line down to my knees. I lived at the beach. I had a ponytail. I didn't have a clue how to prepare for the show. And back then, as you know, they had no tanning stuff back in the late 60s. So I went into a place at Schwab's drugstore where Marilyn Monroe was discovered. And it's a tanning product called Helena Rubinstein Tan in a Minute. So I put this stuff all over me, and I looked like a carrot, orange. And it was crazy. Anyway, I didn't even place in the show. So I went into a couple others, and I got a little good. I got better. My buddy that I used to train with once in a while, we went up to Gold's Gym, and I met all the legends. This is around 1968. So I was just turned on by what I saw. Met Arnold, met Frank Zane, and you know, you look at Zane and Arnold, and they're two different bodies, but I kind of liked Zane because I could communicate more with that. Arnold was so big, and everybody that was in the gym would follow Arnold's routine, no matter what he did. So we were like them. We wanted to get big, and so we followed the routine. And one thing led to another, and I knew that there was a show called Mr. Southern California. And got into it, didn't place again. But I gradually got the groove on what to do. My buddy ran a show in San Diego who owned Iron Man's gyms named Roger Metz, and he did the first ever Pacific Southwest. I entered it, but prior to that, I got deathly sick, and I had the Hong Kong flu, and I laid in bed for 2 weeks before the show, and I was just totally ripped. I had no body fat on me. And they said, enter the show, I think you can win. And I said, I am so skinny, I can't do nothing. So I went to the show, and I won. I couldn't believe it. They announced the winners in 5th place, 4th place, 3rd place, 2nd place. I put my pants on. I was walking out, and the winner was Mike Glass. Oh, my God, I was excited. But I learned a good lesson, and that was it's not how big you are, but how ripped you are and in shape you are, because if you've got the symmetry, that's what usually wins.
Yeah, and I think we've seen that in the sport is conditioning is so much. And if you're not in condition, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter how big you are, you're not presenting your best package. I think what some of the people would like to know is going back to that very first show you did with not really knowing that much, what ran through your mind that motivated you that, hey, I want to get up on stage?
Well, I wanted to test run the car. I built the car up, meaning my body, and I wanted to put it on the track to see what I could do. And a lot of the shows were so ill run, I thought, there's something wrong here. You know, we work our bodybuilders. Mind you, this is before women's bodybuilding. There were maybe a few bikini contests, but there was no women's bodybuilding. So I entered a show in Palm Springs, and we guest posed on the diamond of the a baseball field, and I ended up getting 5th with that. But I thought, my God, the trophy was only that tall. I worked 6 months, and I said, there's something wrong with this equation. All of these guys are working out so hard, and they don't have anything to show for it. So I worked for a club in Anaheim at the time before before that, I ran Zuber's Hall of Fame gym, and I was manager there, and it was 1971. So after that, I went to another show. I went to another headquarters, and I managed the club called Adam and Eve Health Club. They issued fig leaves at the door, 2 for men and 4 for women. I'm kidding. It was called Adam and Eve Health Club. Anyway, I ended up managing the place, and we did an in-house show where it was called Mr. and Mrs. Adam and Eve. In fact, a guy named Pete Grimkowski, Mr. World, guest posed. It was 1977. That was my very first production. I just had the fever. I want to produce this and make it nice. So we had a nice little show, and he guest posed, and we had a good show. We had about 100 people show up. The next year, we had maybe 200 people show up. The third year, there was a show out there called Mr. Orange County. And I asked the promoter, I said, are you going to run the Orange County? He says, no, we lost money. We're not going to do it again. At that time, there were Mr. and Miss shows, Mr. and Miss L.A., Mr. Orange County, Mr. America. So we said, let's do something different. So we said, why not, there's racing classics, there's football classics, there's golf classics. Why not have a muscle classic? And we did, and we ran the show, and that's where the word came from. I created Muscle Classic.
And that was the very first Muscle Classic.
In 1978. Okay, so our first show, we didn't know what to expect. So we made a big poster. Rather than a little tiny, 8.5 by 11 sheet, we made it like the size of a French door. And we put Frank Zane on it, and I forget who the other one was. And we brought in 1,000 people, Brett, and I said, I think we got something here.
And that's where it started.
That's where it started. As the shows got bigger and bigger and bigger, the Orange County Muscle Classic ended up tying the record of the Mr. Olympia attendance with 5,000 all-day, one-day attendance at Anaheim Convention Center. In fact, this right here is the poster that we created. As you can see, our posters, we spent as much money on our posters as most people would spend on the entire budget of their show. Because there were other shows out there. There were the Golds Classic, there was this, there was, Mr. Long Beach or something. But we decided to put more money in it, more class. That's why we called it a Muscle Classic.
And there's been a lot of pro bodybuilders that have come out after winning the Orange County Muscle Classic.
Well, number one was Honoree, John Brown. Honoree was a teenager, and he entered this very show in 1985. He was just the wet behind the ears kid. But I looked at him and I said, this kid is unbelievable. So he got in our teen class, swept the whole house. I think he could have won the overall. And it was really a classic. Well, the president of the NPC calls me the next day and he says, yeah, I heard what you did. I said, what's that? He said, you broke the record or tied the record of the Mr. Olympia. I said, I don't know, but we did pretty well and we made a lot of money, Jim. So anyway, I started getting a reputation of being a good promoter. But also what we did, we gave away trophies the size of a grandfather clock.
Right, and I remember that, and that's what I wanted to get into with you too, was how you changed that from getting, when you said just the little trophy, to putting the focus more towards the athletes. And that was an intentional move by you to try to bring up the athletes in the sport.
Well, there were some trophies that I saw. I knew Ralph Kroger was Mr. America. He showed me his trophy. It was only no more than a foot tall. And I said, we're going to give away trophies that'll really make them proud that they won this trophy. So we would make 4 tiers, 3 tiers, and it was up to 7 foot. I remember a guy flew in from Texas. He won the show, and I forget his name, one of our Orange counties. And he said, I want to thank you, Mike. And I said, I'm going to send you a bill because we had to put the trophy in the undercarriage. They wouldn't put it in board the plane. It was fun, but we had a good time.
And yeah, I, as a kid, remember, going into Needham's and seeing those trophies and just, wow, it was like, that was something.
Yeah, Needham's was a good gym. I liked it. It was good, but look, down the road, you would see some of the trophies some of the guys won, and they were small little cups or this or that. We wanted to really bring in the prestige, so we spent a lot of money on the posters, the venues. We loved Knott's Berry Farm Good Time Theater because it had a rain curtain that would actually rain, and we had a big baffling system that was like Dolby 6 of today. You would rumble the whole hall. It made people think, where in the world am I? We at Universal Studios. We wanted to give them more, and we had a good team at that time.
And that's fantastic, and that's one of the reasons we want to honor you at our show, because we're trying to carry that tradition out into, we know what the athletes go through in this sport and how hard they work and how hard they diet, and it's a 24-hour a day getting ready for a show. There is no off days, and we want to be able to honor our athletes because we know what they go through, and we think they deserve more, and to really appreciate what they do, and then follow in your steps of doing it locally in Orange County and tapping into the local talent that we have here.
Well, the talent was so good that I teamed up with a guy named Javier Pollock from San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we did the North American Championships 3 years in a row. We took the North American out of Vegas. It did 500 people. We took it down to the Redondo Beach Performing Arts with the right ingredients, the right poster, the right prestige, and the right trophies. We packed it in 3 times the attendance, over 1,500 people in that venue.
I think that's amazing. I think what some of our people might be interested to know that they might not know about you is you've also promoted international shows.
Yes, I have. I've done the first ever IFBB Pro called the United States Pro Championships. It was a tribute to the late Joe Gold. And all of our medals had his name on it, and every person entering, placing or not, got a medal. And Mike Christian won that year, and it was a marvelous show. And we just felt, let's do it. Unfortunately, the next year it didn't work out as well because there was a little bit of jealousy on some of the other promoters bodybuilding with some of the IFBB promoters. So I ended up not doing it the next year because it was kind of not very, it wasn't pleasant. There was no such thing as a real buddy-buddy team. And it was always against the odds. The one show I'm very proud of that I had we created in 1998 was with Joe Weider. I went up to Joe's office, thanks to my good friend Bob Del Monte, who is the oldest living fitness guru for seniors in the United States. Him and Joe were very tight friends, and I said, Joe, women's bodybuilding at that time is getting out of hand. It looks like men wearing bras and panties. They were so big. We loved them, but they were so big. You couldn't sell sponsorship. You couldn't use them in advertisement. So he said, okay, what do you want to do? I said, we want to have the Weider girl and the Weider guy, just like Bob Guccione did with Penthouse. And Hef did with Playboy. Let's do the Weider girl and the Weider guy and have a lot of beauty and a little muscle. So we did it. Joe gave me $150,000 worth of publicity in his magazine. And I said, wow, this is going to be great. So we were at the Olympia weekend at Mandalay Bay. And you know how big that place is. My God. We had in one class 175 girls show up for the women's division. By the way, there was no teens, there was no masters. It was just one class. Just think if we would have had classes, and we created it for guys. That's where the original physique came from, was through our show.
And I don't know if you know this offhand, but with your life's work, about how many shows have you competed in personally, and then about how many shows have you produced?
Oh, only a few. Actually, I've only competed in a few. I did pretty well. I have a decent physique, but I took on a ready-made family when in my 20s, and I inherited 3 to 4 kids, and I ended up having a daughter. My bodybuilding career was gone, and you know, because you're a married man.
And that just goes back to, what you did in promoting and what we're trying to do in promoting is how much of a lifestyle this is and how much work it takes to get ready to get up on stage. One thing I'd like to just go over to you real quick, going back to when you first started, that I think people watching would really like to know is what tips do you have for somebody that a lot of our shows, we have a lot of first time people, or it might be their second or third show. What tips do you have to give to them?
The promoters or the competitors?
The competitors.
Okay, go in, train hard as you can. Don't expect to win nothing. Because if you win something and you win everything, you're going to say, what a bonus this is. I know you got to work hard. I know you got to train hard. I know you got to, but just go in and relax, have a good time, give it all you got, because I've seen so many people, some of them, and I won't mention his name, one of our shows, he, I think you know who I'm talking about, dropped his trophy, he smashed it on the ground at Knott's Berry Farm, and he was a teenager, and he didn't win. He got second, and I got thrown out of the park because of that. That's why I'm saying go in, don't get out of control, treat everybody nice, and I got booted out of there, but I eventually got back in. And just have a good time, but don't overdiet. Contact, your friends and tell them what's going on. But I think a lot of them, as you get older, like I'm 70 and I wanted to compete, and maybe I will, but check your blood, check your, really run some really serious tests on yourself. But it's a great sport. It's the best sport out there, as Arnold always says. And I had the opportunity to meet Joe Weider, Ben Weider, Arnold, Serge Nubret, who was the most symmetrical man I've ever met, and work with Serge overseas. And just have a good time with it and go in and kick ass. And I think you'll do well.
I think those are good words to go on. Well, Mike, we thank you for your time, and we really look forward to seeing the show and honoring you for your life's work in bodybuilding, both in competing and in promotion.
Thank you so much, and it's an honor. I've gotten certain awards for certain things. I was in Italy at the Mr. Universe, and they gave me a achievement award with the federation out there. I was very thrilled with it, but this is a big honor because this is right in my own backyard. And all I can say is, on June 24th, bring a friend, bring a buddy, bring your husband, bring your wife. But don't miss the Orange County Elite. I'll be there.
I think that wraps it up. Thanks, Mike, and we will see you there, and we hope to see everybody else there too.